Welcome to the Expert Speaker Podcast. We have the one and only Jeffrey E. Berger here, mental health expert, holistic coach. Welcome to the show, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Majeed. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm humbled to be on your podcast today. Thanks.
Where do we start? We are in a world where each day mental health seems to be more and more in the focus. And isn't it really the game that we're all playing is like, how do we be happy, stay happy, enjoy life? I want to start with Jeffrey. What is your definition of mental health?
Great question, Majeed. And mental health, really, the definition changed for me just a couple of years ago. Growing up, I always was with the understanding that mental health was a label that was attached to individuals who had mental health problems. And, you could be talking about, people with schizophrenia and all different types of diagnoses, ADHD, attention deficit, so forth and so on. Recently, what I've come to learn through my own journey is that mental health is a combination of physical, mental, and emotional well being. It's a segment in overall well being. And we'll talk more about the in depth about where mental health is really stemming from it as a result of scientific research, clinical studies, so forth and so on.
Some people would say, Jeffrey, that 100 years ago, none of these so-called mental health disorders existed. There was just sometimes you're in a bad mood, sometimes you're in a good mood. And now there's so many diagnoses. Has something changed, or has the science or the medicine changed, or has society changed, or have, in your opinion, have these things always exist and they just maybe weren't diagnosed and labeled?
So that's a great question. I would say back 100 years ago, people who were diagnosed with mental health issues were put into a hospital, into an asylum, and they were just basically pushed aside, and it was never really talked about. Today, over the last 5 to 10 years, but more so in the last 5 years, we've got iconic figures, sports figures, musicians coming out talking about their mental health struggles. Me growing up, I was always told men don't have feelings, you don't cry, push your feelings underneath the carpet, build a bridge and get over it. Well, bottom line is men do have feelings. And it's time to really talk about this and bring it out into the open to bring awareness. It's all about awareness and destigmatizing mental health. It's not a disease, it's not a cursor, but what can we do to get to the root cause of where this is stemming from rather than just labeling people and then going through the little green book and prescribing medication for certain disorders.
Mm-hmm. On the topic of medication, this is an issue that's personally affected my life. Someone very close to me in my family had a diagnosis, was given a prescription, and they were told to take those pills forever. And then there were side effects from the pills. And to deal with the side effects, they were prescribed more pills. And then the more pills made new side effects and new pills. And before we knew it, there was a whole section of the counter dedicated to pill organization, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, morning, afternoon. And in the case of this family member of mine, she took a turn for the better when she started to think about food. And all the doctors that were prescribing all the pills weren't really talking about food. I wonder, in your experience, there's probably even more than food. There's, now that I know what I know, there's sunshine, there's sleep, there's hydration. So what's your opinion on the culture of prescribing pills, and is there a better way?
Wow, you really hit a touchy subject, especially when it comes to me. So, in regards to your family member, I've dealt with many family members. My mother was on 27 meds a day. My father
Mm,
died, unfortunately, from type 2 diabetes, heart disease, leg amputation. He was on 12 medications. And just a couple of years ago, my doctor told me that I needed to go on to a sixth medication. And I'm like, why do I need to go on a sixth medication? And she said I was having complications from the other five, so this would offset it. And I said, well, who's to say that a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, I'm not going to develop more complications from this? And so her response was, well, this is, you come from a type 2 diabetic family and you have to manage your type 2 diabetes with medication. And I looked at her and said, no, I think you're wrong. And I'm going to be looking for other solutions because this is not the route that I want to go. And that really opened up the door for me to really do my own research, be in control of my own health and understanding where what I need and from all aspects of life, whether it's food, supplementation, exercise, hydration, so forth and so on, because there's a plethora of modalities that aid in overall well-being. And fortunately, through my own research and holistic options and doing different types of research and talking to people who are in the holistic platform area, if you will, it really opened up the door for me. And long and the short of it is, I was very fortunate to be able to lose 60 pounds, reverse my type 2 diabetes, come off of five medications, and really look at changing my life to a new holistic lifestyle because it is a lifestyle change because we've been brought up in this world to believe that the doctors are the end all be all and they're human, but they were put into a system, a broken system, I'm calling now, because they're only taught about pharmaceuticals and their studies on nutrition is, I think it's like 4 to 6 hours. They get nothing in regards to nutrition. And the bottom line is food is medicine and plants were put here for a reason. And we're not utilizing the essences of these plants that have so many attributes to our own health and well-being. And the focus has shifted to the pharmaceutical industry, which is really a shame. It's a system of managing illness rather than managing wellness and teaching people how to really treat their what I call a body temple.
Body temple, yes. Jeffrey, talk to me about the type of coaching you do. You're a certified holistic coach. Tell me about that.
Sure. So let me just set the stage a little bit. I left corporate America in 2016, being burnt out. My health was not in a good state, and over the next couple of years, I was searching, I was seeking, and wanting to do something that had more value than being a software engineer and doing that route. So, with that, I discovered this holistic arena, which allowed me to make some changes. And with that, during my journey, I actually went out and got two certifications as a certified health and integrative wellness coach, followed by a certification as a holistic health coach. But it actually is a holistic mental wellness coach because it really focuses, this certification focuses on a platform of programs and a product line that is science-backed, clinical trial, plant-based, and vegan-friendly, and award-winning. We're winning a lot of awards. We're getting peer reviews in regards to the efficacy of this product line, and it's incorporating plants, indigenous plants from all over the world.
Hmm,
So for me to be able to do what I do, before I got the certifications, a lot of people were saying, asking me, well, what does a software engineer know about health and wellness?
sure.
No, so at that time, I was still learning, and I'm still learning. It's going to be an ongoing journey of learning because there's so much out there today that's being offered and is that's available for people, but they don't know about it because they're stuck in that road of Western medicine, and we need to give them value and information about other options to make an educated decision for themselves. So I decided I wanted to build a platform for me because I was so passionate about what I had done in regards to reversing my type 2 diabetes. But over the last 2 years, what I've really focused and evaluated my whole journey is the aspect of stress resilience. And having stress resilience, reducing my stress, my anxiety and depression that was at a 10 plus for decades,
Yeah.
level one, with absolutely no depression in the last 3 to 4 years, especially through the pandemic. And last year, I had six, well, just now seven deaths in my family, just a recent one. Now, was I depressed from the deaths? Well, sure. I was sad that they died, but my mode of operation was that I reacted to stress, anxiety, and depression. And sometimes my reactions were volatile. They were kind of toxic. And what has allowed me to do is to be able to take a step back and evaluate, okay, I'm feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? I'm feeling stressed out. Why am I feeling stressed out? What is the message here to me? And what am I supposed to learn and take away from it so I can share it down the road? And that's been priceless, Majeed, because do I get stressed out? Sure, but not at a 10 plus anymore. But having that stress resilience really has changed my overall physical and mental well-being because as you know, cortisol levels as they spike up, they really do harm to the body, in many, many ways.
So to recap, part of your process for building stress resilience is the mindfulness to notice when you're feeling stressed, ask yourself, what is this feeling I'm feeling? Anxiety, stress. And then ask yourself, what is the lesson that I need to incorporate from this? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah.
You mentioned something. I wanted to ask you about how we measure mental health. And you mentioned stress at a 10 or a 10 plus, and that's sort of, I assume, on a scale of 1 to 10 kind of measurement. There's a time when I was going through a pretty dark phase of my life, and I hired a therapist. And he asked me to measure every morning the intensity of my anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10. Because at the time, I would wake up and I was like super anxious. I had never felt that before. And he said, let's track it. And one of the principles I live by is what you measure improves. So I started tracking it every morning and writing my number, and I started to see it trending in the right direction, and that was great. And I couldn't help but think that it's maybe a little unscientific for me to ask myself, how much anxiety am I feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? I wonder what other kind of metrics there are. If there are, you mentioned the chemical cortisol, and I suppose you could, given the right tools, actually measure the precise amount of cortisol coursing through someone's veins, for example, blood test or whatnot. But I wonder, what are the markers and what are the measures of good mental health versus bad mental health? And when you're tracking these things analytically, how do you track and measure them?
So that's a really great question. And this is, I think, in my experience over the last 4 years, this type of metrics is evolving. And, for me in the beginning, it was more of measuring, am I sleeping well at night? What is my mood during the day? Am I up? Am I down? And when I wake up in the morning, how do I feel overall? Is my heart beating rapidly? And the other thing too is, how do I react? When I react to stress, is it at a very low level or a high level? When I say high level, I'm talking about pounding the fist on the desk or the wall, and then swearing at the individual or the thing that stressed you out, the trigger there. But what I've learned through this journey is that your health has a huge impact on your stress levels and being anxious. When I started out, I was at a level 2, which is I was diabetic, I was considered obese, my health was not good. So when you're not healthy, people are stressed. There's that concern there. So you're at a low level on that mental wellness continuum, if you will. And then, today, most people feel that they're stressed out at a level 5, where they're fatigued and they're just chronic inflammation and this and that. And that's considered fine today in today's world because we're in such a high paced, hectic world with two working, parents, and then the kids in school and doing this and doing that, or if you're taking care of your elderly parents, so forth and so on. And then you get to that higher end where you've got vigor, and you've got physical energy, mental acuity, and emotional well-being. So there's that continuum, the low, medium, and high, and that's kind of what I've geared myself on. But the other thing, though, too, is what I'm learning, and I'm learning this continually, is understanding your blood work, because your blood work really tells a lot about what's
Yeah.
going on. And we produce our own chemicals
Okay.
in your own body. And that's what these plants do. They target and feed our cells, our viruses, and our microorganisms in our gut to, flourish down there. As opposed to when you introduce man made chemicals, that puts a disruption, and especially with the foods that we have. So there's controls. And what are the controls that are helping you live a really balanced lifestyle versus that roller coaster ride of just barely surviving and just getting through the day, so forth and so on.
Jeffrey,
So
if someone wants to get their blood work done, how do they do that? They just go to their family doctor and say, take some blood and send me the results, or what?
yeah, so for example, I get my blood work done through Quest Diagnostics down here in Florida, and I get a copy of it. And what I do is I print it out and then I look at the results and I start studying my own blood work so I can understand
Mm,
what each of the elements are on that blood test. And then if I don't understand something, I'll go look, I'll use Mr. Google, and go out there and start learning about my own health.
okay.
You've got the cholesterol, you've got the A1C, you've got the mercury, in all kinds of different types. But now there are different types of blood tests, obviously, but I'm trying to work towards getting a full panel, which is everything. I want everything done in my blood work so I can understand where I'm coming
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm still looking at my own health.
Yeah. Jeffrey, I'd love to learn the process you would take a client through. So they come to you, they say, I need a coach. I'm really struggling. And, they tell you all their issues and you put them on a protocol. What's the process look like? How long does it take?
Sure. So number one, the way I like to work is that I have my initial conversation with the individual. Then I ask them to take an assessment. It gives me a baseline of where they're coming from physically and mentally. And then from that assessment, we'll schedule a review of that assessment. We'll talk about the results. We'll talk about the recommended protocols. And then it'll be open up for a Q&A. I like to go into Q&A and do in-depth questioning. What did they do before? What worked before? What didn't work before? What are you really looking for in regards to your physical, mental, and emotional well-being? And where do you feel you are today? And then where do you want to go? And then I really question them about, well, how long do you think this is going to take? Do you think this is going to take like a week to fix, or is it going to take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year? Because everybody's different. There's physical, mental wellness is at different states. For me personally, my journey was 9 months, and
Hmm.
that was the initial journey. But I'm still doing my journey. I've been doing it for 3 years. I'm working on little elements because I'm talking about myself. I was Western medicine. I was following a very destructive path for decades. And
Mm,
you're not going to change overnight. You're not going to change in 1 year after 40, 50 years of destroying your body with bad foods and whatever else is out there that you're
yeah.
not aware of.
Yeah.
So it's a process. And for people who really want to get back into a really good state, it could be 3 months, it could be a year, it could be up to 5 years.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much the process. And during that time, we evaluate how are things working, what's not working. We may need to tweak some of the supplementation line that I represent, or we may need to tweak some of the nutrition that they're doing, or the exercise or the stress management aspect, because there's different modalities that I incorporate into my program, helping people get to the better state.
Okay. Is there a example of a client that you've worked with that has had a particularly inspiring transformation that you could share with us?
Yes, I do. I love this story. My friend Elaine, who I actually went to high school with, she had been following me for it was about a year and a half on Facebook, not commenting on any of my posts, any of my stories. She was just watching, watching, watching. And one day she reached out to me and said, she said, I want to know what you're doing.
Mm,
So because she was bedridden, she had no energy. She was not in a health state where she could play with her grandchildren. It was difficult to even go and see her children, and it was really impacting her. Now she had some surgery done on rods being put into her legs, but that was in addition to all of the other stuff that was going on. So we went through the process, and we are now in 3 years. She's been a loyal customer, but about a year and a half into her journey, she reached out to me and just she called me up and said, "Jeff, I cannot believe what's happened to me. I'm out of bed on a daily basis. I'm out in my garden. I haven't been in my garden for almost 3 years, and I'm planting and I'm having a good time. I'm able to play with my grandchildren, not like I want to because of the rods and stuff, but at least I'm able to play with my grandchildren. And my relationship with the family has gotten so much more improved because I'm not sick all the time. And
hmm
I think the best part of that is her family has reached out to her and said, Mom, you look amazing. You're healthy. You're thriving, and you're happy again. We love to see you smiling, and that story really hits me right here.
Yeah.
So
And I can see how that would transform the whole family. I mean, that was my story for my family. My mother, she was so gone
right,
with her mental health. It really like the whole family was broken.
yes,
And when mom got better, life was good again.
right.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up with some rapid fire, Jeffrey.
Okay.
3 quick tips. Quick, easy, simple things people can do to boost their mental health. What do you recommend?
I'd say stay away from boxed and canned foods. That's number one. Okay. Try to go as natural as you can. Making homemade stuff, getting your own tomatoes and making your own tomato sauce. Number two is be open to getting information about alternative options because so many are this way. No, they're lasered onto the Western medicine. And there are options out there that are safe and work. And the objective here is to get educated and stay away from people who say that's foo foo stuff. That doesn't work. Well, they don't know. And then number three is consider reaching out to a coach and getting educated and getting some guidance and getting some information from an individual who has that type of experience, who can guide you, provide value, provide direction to help you look and seek that information that you're really looking for.
Well, seeking a coach leads me perfectly into the next question, Jeffrey. And, I'm just remembering when you shared that you told someone who said to you, you're going to have to go on pills, you said, no, I'm going to want to find another way. I imagine that took a fair bit of courage. And if you didn't have any idea what that other way might be, it can be very scary, I'm assuming, to stand up to an authority figure like a doctor who's saying, no, you need to take these pills. So, for someone who wants to work with a coach like you, someone who would like to have a guide and some guidance through navigating some of these systems, how can people get a hold of you and have a conversation with you?
So yeah, great question. And I do want to just throw this little tidbit in, Majeed. I gradually came off of my medication. This is not
Yeah.
something where you stop all of your medication. You improve your health and you lower the dosages of medication. So
Yeah.
I put that. So as far as people getting a hold of me, they can reach out to me at jeffrey@jeffreyeberger.biz. That's my email address. I am on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok now. And it's all under, just search Jeffrey E. Berger. That's on all of the platforms. And I do have a website, jeffreyeberger.biz, and you can reach out there. There's a calendar link on there. I don't know if I have my phone number on there or not, but you know what? This is Majeed's podcast. My phone number is 239-933-7678. And my ask is, text me first saying this is your name, and you are texting me from the Majeed's podcast, Expert Speaker Podcast.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's important work you're doing. Mental health in the world these days, it's, more and more important every day. And it's very inspiring what you've done for yourself and for your clients. And anyone who is fortunate enough to have a conversation with you is in good hands. So thank you for doing your work.
Thank you, Majeed. Appreciate it.
And thank you, dear listener, for listening or watching here at the Expert Speaker Podcast.
Awesome. Yes.
Thank you for listening to the Expert Speaker Podcast. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave us a rating so that more people can discover the Expert Speaker Podcast, and so more people can be empowered to share their message. Be sure to go to www.expertspeaker.com and take the masterclass to learn how to grow your business and make money speaking. It's totally free and will change your business. If you're ready to work with Expert Speaker, you can apply. Just go to expertspeaker.com/apply, and someone from our team will be in touch with you to help you grow your business with public speaking. That's expertspeaker.com/apply. We'll see you in the next episode.